Prato is a city and comune in Tuscany, Italy, the capital of the province of Prato. The city is at the foot of Monte Ratea, elevation 768 meters, the last peak in the Calvana chain. The lowest elevation in the comune is 32 meters, near the Cascine di Tavola, and the highest is the peak of Monte Cantagrillo at 818 meters. The Bisenzio River, a tributary of the Arno, flows through it. Historically, Prato's economy has been based on the textile industry. The renowned Datini archives are a significant collection of late medieval documents concerning economic and trade history, produced between 1363 and 1410. Prato is also a center of the slow food movement, with many local specialities, including cantaci, a type of biscotti, sold by local specialty bakers. Since the late 1950s, the city has experienced significant immigration, firstly from southern Italy, then from other nationalities. The most notable being a large Chinese community which first arrived in the late 1980s. With more than 189,000 inhabitants, Prato is Tuscany's second-largest city and the third-largest in central Italy, after Rome and Florence. History. Ancient times archaeological findings have proved that Prato's surrounding hills were inhabited since Paleolithic times. The plain was later colonized by the Etruscans. In 1998, remains of a previously unknown city from that civilization were discovered in the neighborhood, at Gonfiante near Campi Bisenzio. It was of medium size and it was already a center for wool and textile industry. According to some scholars, it could be the mythical Kamars. The Etruscan city was inhabited until the 5th century BC, when, for undisclosed reasons, it decayed. Control of the area was later shifted to the Romans, who had their Via Cassia pass from here, but did not build any settlement. Middle Ages. In the early Middle Ages, the Byzantine and Lombard dominations followed. The history of Prato itself begins from the 10th century, when two distinct villages, Borgo Alcornio and Castrum Prata, are known. In the following century the two settlements were united under the lords of the castle, the Alberti family, who received the imperial title of Counts of Prato. In the same period the plain was dried and a hydraulic system regulating and exploiting the waters of the Bisenzio River was created to feed the Gualciera. After a siege in 1107 by the troops of Matilda of Canossa, the Alberti retreated to their family fortresses in the Bisenzio Valley. Prato could therefore develop as a free commune. Within 2 centuries it reached the number of 15,000 inhabitants. Spurred in by the flourishing textile industry and by the presence of the Holy Belt relic, 2 new lines of walls had to be built in the mid-12th century and, respectively, from the early 14th century. In 1326, in order to counter the expansionism of Florence, Prato submitted voluntarily under the seigneury of Robert of Anjou, King of Naples. However, on the 23rd of February 1351, Joanna I of Naples sold the city to Florence in exchange of 17,500 gold and florins. Prato's history therefore followed that of the former in the following centuries. Modern age. In 1512, during the War of the Holy League, the city was sacked by Spanish troops assembled by Pope Julius II and the King of Aragon, Ferdinand II, to recover the nearby city of Florence for the Medici family. The severity of the sack of Prato led to the surrender of the Florentine Republic, and to the restoration of the Medici rule. Historians debate the actual number of people killed during the sack, but contemporary chroniclers asserted between 2,000 and 6,000 people were slaughtered in the streets. In 1653, Prato obtained the status of city and became seat of a Catholic diocese. The city was embellished in particular during the 18th century. After the unification of Italy in the 19th century, Prato became a primary industrial center, especially in the textile sector, and population grew up to 50,000 in 1901 and to 180,000 in 2001. The town experienced a significant internal immigration. Previously part of the province of Florence, in 1992 Prato became the capital of the eponymous province. Chinese immigration and its economic impact. The city of Prato has the second largest Chinese immigrant population in Italy. Legal Chinese residents in Prato on 31 December 2008 were 9,927. Local authorities estimate the number of Chinese citizens living in Prato to be around 45,000, illegal immigrants included. Most overseas Chinese come from the city of Wenzhou in the province of Zhejiang, some of them having moved from Chinatown in Paris. The first Chinese people came to Prato in the early 1990s. The majority of Chinese work in 3,500 workshops in the garment industry and ready-to-wear. Chinatown is located in the west part of the city, spreading to Porta Pistories in the historical center. The local Chamber of Commerce registered over 3,100 Chinese businesses by September 2008. Most of them are located in an industrial park named Macrolato di Ilo. Raids on factories employing illegal immigrants in 2010 highlighted problems with the growth of an apparel industry in Prato based on cheap, and sometimes illegal, labor. In spite of all these blames, the local unemployment rate was around 7% in 2013, which was significantly lower than the national average 11%. Even after 4,000 enterprises which employed 20,000 people were closed in the past 2 decades. The president of the Industrial Association of Prato, Andrea Cavicci, pointed out that the local economic performance was much better than the rest of Italy due to those Chinese textile business. Dialect. The dialect from Prato is very similar to that of Florence, but it has its own peculiarities. The pronunciation of the city name in the dialect was traditionally Prao, but now Praho or Pra-Thetero are more common. Main sites. Prato is home to many museums and other cultural monuments, including the Filippo Lippi frescoes in the Cathedral of Santo Stefano, recently restored. The cathedral has an external pulpit by Donatello and Michelozzo, built and still used for the display of the cathedral's famous relic of the Virgin Mary, the Girdle of Thomas, which had a great reputation in the late Middle Ages and is often shown in Florentine art. Also of interest is the Teatro Metastasia, the city's main venue for operas and other theatrical productions, which was built in 1829–30. Palazzi and Castelli. Palazzo Pretorio. The palace was begun in the 13th century in red bricks. Late Gothic-style additions were in white stone. The external staircase and clock were added in the 16th century and later. Palazzo Dattini. Palace built from 1383 for the merchant Francesco Dattini, which was decorated by Florentine artists like Agnolo Gaddi and Niccolo Guarini. In 1409 it housed Pope Alexander V and Louis of Anjou. Palazzo degli Alberti houses a museum with works by Filippo Lippi, Giovanni Bellini and Caravaggio. Castello dell'Imperatore. This is the northernmost castle built by Frederick II of Hohenstaufen in Italy. Centro per l'Arte Contemporanea Luigi Pecchi. This museum and education center sponsors contemporary artworks and exhibitions. Churches Santa Maria del Carceri, commissioned by Lorenzo de' Medici to Giuliano da San Gallo in 1484. It is on a Greek cross plan, inspired by Brunelleschi's Pazzi Chapel. Works lasted for some 20 years. The interior is run by a bichromatic Maiolica frieze by Luca della Robbia, also author of 4 tondos depicting the 4 evangelists in the cupola. The external facade is unfinished, only the western part being completed in the 19th century according to Sangallo's design. Sant'Agostino, built from 1440 over an existing edifice from 1271. It has a simple facade with a rose window and a bell tower with pyramidal top. The interior is on the basilica plan, with a nave and two aisles divided by brickwork columns having water-leaf capitals. The apse chapels date to the late 14th century. The interior is home to canvases by Giovanni Battista Naldini, Lorenzo Lippi, Lorimpoli, Giovanni Bizzoli and others, as well as 14th-century frescoes. The cloister dates to the 16th century. San Domenico, with a portal from 1310. San Francesco. It houses a funerary monument of Geminiano Inghierami, and the frescoes by Niccolo Guarini in the wonderful Cappella Migliorata. San Fabiano, already existing in 1082. It houses precious traces of a pavement mosaic dating from the 9th–11th centuries. Also notable is the 15th-century bell tower. Minor Basilica of Santi Vincenzo e Caterina de' Ricci, adjacent to the late Baroque monastery of San Vincenzo. The church was decorated for the canonization of the Saint Catherine of Ricci, who was associated with the monastery and is buried in the church. Santa Maria della Pietà, built in 1617–19. It houses a canvas by Mario Ballessa and a 14th-century fresco of the Madonna with Child, with alleged miraculous powers. Sport. Rugby club by Cavalieri Prato. AC. Prato. Primavera Prato. Education. Higher education institutions include Il Polo Universitario, Città di Prato, and the Monash University Center, which is located in the Palazzo by. The University of New Haven opened a satellite campus in Prato in 2012. Notable citizens: Roberto Benigna, actor and director; Paolo Rossi, soccer player; Giuri Cecchi, gymnast, Olympic gold medalist; Francesco Dattini, 14th-century merchant; Enrico Covari, fashion designer and entrepreneur; Domenico Zippoli, composer; Curzio Malaparte, writer; Niccolo Albertini, 13th-century cardinal; Francesco Nuta, actor; Filippo Mazzi, politician; Fiorenzo Magni, cyclist; Clara Calamai, actress; Filippino Lippi, 15th-century painter; Lorenzo Bartolini, sculptor; Sembonelli, writer; Christian Vieri, soccer player; Francesca Bettini, actress; Antonio Brunelli, composer; Ignazio Fresu, sculptor; Alessandro Diamante, soccer player; Pamela Villorsi, actress; Eva Pacetti, lyric singer; Emilia Goggi, opera singer. International relations. Prato is twinned with